Okay, we'll bring the meeting together. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sumpter, Mr. LaFleur.
You caught me last week on a fire call.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, you ready to take over?
Roll call. Do the roll call and then,
Yeah, I'll do the roll call then. Yep.
if we could do that.
Roll call. Bowman here. Fraser.
Here.
Honey.
Here.
Laporte.
Here.
Adi.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
Rush.
Here.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. Go to public comment.
Nobody signed up?
Okay. Matt, you want to take it from there?
I will, sir.
I'll make a motion to have trustee Adi chair the meeting.
And I'll second that motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Take my seat down, yes. If I can sit next to Supervisor Bowman, I appreciate it. Okay, the meeting has been called to order. We're moving into new business, and we have Mr. Martin here as our interview. Why don't we go down the board? I mean, I know you've got our name tags there, but we can introduce ourselves to you, and then I'll have you introduce yourself to us. We'll start down to the right.
I shook his hand, but I'm John Honey again. Hi. Trustee.
Tim Rush, we met earlier.
Right.
I'm Don Laporte, and I'm township clerk.
Hello.
Tim Bowman, Supervisor, Sumpter Township.
Hello.
As we met, Matt Adi, trustee.
Hi.
Treasurer Bart Patterson.
Hello.
Jim Frazier, trustee.
Hi.
Nice to meet you, sir.
All right, so we are gathered here tonight to have an interview with Mr. Martin. And what I'd like to do, Mr. Martin, is kind of get started with you kind of telling us a little something about you. Tell us about, I mean, we read your resume, but it's nothing like hearing it right from you and with the enthusiasm you can't get in a page.
Sure. So, well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a privilege just to be called for an interview, and I have to thank you guys all for accommodating me. I was unavailable last week. I was overseas and on vacation, so it wasn't really possible to get back in time for an interview. But thanks for having me. So, a lot of folks, I think when they get interviewed, they just read the resume off to you. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go back to 1999. That's when I was hired by the hometown newspaper network to work for the Milford Times, and I was assigned to cover Highland and White Lakes Township for the Times that's in Oakland County. And that's kind of where I got my interest peaked in local government. The company policy was to go to all the meetings, cover the meetings, gavel to gavel. There were no surprises for the readers. We reported on everything. And it was, frankly, very interesting to me. Some people find it very dry. I found it very intriguing. So I moved from there after about a year to another paper that was owned by the same company in Royal Oak, and I worked, covered Royal Oak and Ferndale. Eventually became the managing editor of that small chain of 5 papers, again covering public affairs and all the different things that you guys talk about all the time. And when I was doing that, I thought, this might be a career that I'd like to do. As you probably all know, journalism is kind of this is being substituted by other things, and the newspapers are going by the wayside. People don't have as long attention spans, and I needed to find a career change. So I put it in my head that I would go to grad school and get my master's of public administration, which I eventually did. The recession put me back a little bit in terms of affordability, so it took me a little longer to get there and to get the degree. But I eventually did. Worked at a public school for a while, then transitioned to the city of Lathrop Village, worked there, and then transitioned as the manager of Bingham Farms, and I've been there for the past 6 years. Frankly, I feel it's a generous wealth of experience.
All right. You want to add anything else before we kind of get into the meat of it? In fact, I'll just ask a general question, if you don't mind. What
Sure.
were you doing in China?
What's that?
What were you doing in China?
Oh, it was just
Hong
vacation.
Kong, well.
Yeah,
yes.
right. Yeah, not quite the same, but sort of.
Yeah, not quite the
Yeah,
same,
we were
but-
just there for vacation.
Oh.
We spent 4 nights there and 4 nights in Taiwan. We pick a different destination every year, kind of based on our interests, and
Okay.
that was this year.
That was inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah,
question.
sure. I recommend going. I mean, they're both fantastic sites.
All right, so how we're gonna proceed is, I'm gonna, start down at the far end, right, with Mr. Honey. And, we're just gonna kind of go through and throw some questions at you and have you answer them, and we'll just kind of proceed through there.
Okay.
All right?
Right?
Yes, sir.
Just, what are you looking to come to Sumpter Township for? I know it's a job, but I mean,
Right. Well, I always look to, I've been looking for the last couple of years, some of you might know this, because I was here 3 years ago. I'm always looking to move into a larger community from where I am. Bingham is small, and it's a greater sense of career fulfillment. I mean, the whole idea behind public service, the more people you serve, the greater good you're doing, right? So I've been looking to transition to a larger community for a long time. And you're right, the job pops up, and then you look at it and you apply, which is what I did. But my main thrust behind that is that I'm looking to transition to a larger community. Now, there are places I've definitely not applied to. Honestly, this place kind of reminds me of where I grew up. We're in mid-Michigan, Mount Pleasant. We live 7 miles out of town, dirt road. It's just, I get a feeling of unpretentiousness. Kind of a neat place.
a little follow-up on that. So, like, where would you see yourself, say, 3 to 5 years? You think it'd still be around here, or will you continue to maybe look to go bigger, or?
I don't think so. I don't have that many transitions left in me, honestly. Been working a long time. Yeah, never say never, right? But I don't foresee myself having a lot more career transitioning in my future. Now, as you probably all know, sometimes that's not up to you, up to the manager. Sometimes, managers get fired or asked to resign all the time. So, that issue may be forced in some fashion. I hope not. It never hasn't been to me yet, but that could happen. In which case, I obviously would have to look again, but not necessarily. Again, I don't have that many transitions left. I've done a lot of changing, if you've looked at my resume.
And just one little more thing is, you understand, because it's bigger, that there's a whole lot more here to deal with than, say, up there as far as, police department, fire department, water department, things such as that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have all those things where I work.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we have a fire department
I thought-
now we contract out to do a lot of this stuff, but that doesn't mean that I'm not involved with the ongoings of how these things are managed.
Well, that's what I was concerned
Okay,
with,
all right.
because they're not right there with you.
Right.
Like they are here right
Right.
now with us.
Right, and that's where, obviously, you have other staff, you have department heads, and you have to rely on those people as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Rush?
Thanks for coming, Ken. Really appreciate it. If you could you describe, well, obviously, you've got a lot of background in government, but can you describe to us what you anticipate the working relationship between you as township manager and the board of trustees?
The board is like a seven-person, a seven-headed boss, basically. And, you set the policies, whether it be through ordinance or resolution, you set the policies, and the manager ensures that those policies are carried out. That's basically the relationship, in a nutshell. That's kind of how it works. Attending meetings, things happen, people discuss things, you prepare for the meetings, you prepare the documents that go with the meetings. It's sort of a kind of a hand-in-hand relationship. But at the end of the day, you set the policy, and we meet, and the manager ensures that the policy is carried out.
Great. And can you describe any work you've done or involvement with grant writing or grants?
Sure. We've had mixed success with that, honestly. I could have a $100,000 grant from Oakland County, $30,000 grant from the Birmingham Area Cable Board, grant from SEMCOG for PACER ratings. Those were successful. Unsuccessful grants were through, another SEMCOG we were turned down for a street maintenance project. Turned down from another one from another Oakland County grant. I mean, it's a mixed bag. You apply, you fill out the award, or you fill out the grant application. You apply, and sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But yeah, we've had that kind of experience. And then obviously with the follow-up of reporting, which is a big thing now. You probably know grants have changed a lot. It used to be apply for a grant, get the money, spend the money. Now grants, awardees, no, the folks who who award grants, pardon me, the folks who award grants, they want skin in the game, right? So you don't just get the dollars, you have to commit dollars. And sometimes not every grant's going to be worthwhile applying for. If the skin is, a 50% match, sometimes that can be a tough ask. So the grants have to be weighed. Not everything is instantly applicable to your community.
Yeah, and last question for you. Could you describe your management style working with the employees and staff?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty open door and participatory. I like feedback. A lot of times it's talk less and listen more. People have valuable experience, and you want to hear from them, and you want to make sure that you're available to them. I'm not an absentee manager. I get involved.
Thank you. Chair, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Clerk report?
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Sure.
In the workplace, you hear a lot of things about servant leadership. Have you heard that recently? Mm-hmm. That word getting tossed around. Mm-hmm. What would be your best definition of servant leadership as it would apply to the township?
Well, I would apply it to most places, not just the township, but it's effective public service, right? That's all. The whole idea behind public service is to improve people's lives, improve their health, safety, and welfare. And that's what you do that's how you're always striving to improve that service that you deliver. And you're the public servant. You're working for folks. You have an open door. You want to meet folks. You want to hear from them. I guess it's a matter of as much help as possible in a participatory way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
In Bingham, have you initiated or created any community programs that involve like the seniors or youth programs?
Well, I do a couple of different things. I have a local government 101 lecture series that I conduct maybe once a year. People sign up. It's a 4-part series. They come in and they learn how government works. And frankly, it's fascinating to a lot of folks because they live there. They don't know the intricacies of how government works and the services that are delivered. That's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that. I just put the new one out. Is going to be in April if I'm there still. It'll start soon enough. Seniors, we contract with a service through Birmingham called Next, and that's we don't ever know where that name came from. I've never figured it out. It's not an acronym, but it's Next, like the next step in senior living or something of that nature. And I'm on their board, their advisory board. We do a lot of offerings. Next is through Birmingham, and then surrounding communities are member communities, right? They pay a fee, and then members, seniors can also also required to pay a fee, but there's all kinds of programming through that. We're always looking to outreach with that.
And along those lines, what kind of ideas can you bring that could benefit the community as a whole?
Well, it helps to learn a little bit more about it before you start talking about ideas. But I noticed on the website, and this is one of my questions I was going to ask. I might as well throw it out now as part of my response to you. I noticed that on the Parks and Recs page, like all the events are canceled. Is there a reason for that? And what is the reason for that? And maybe we could solve that and start offering some events again. Is it because there's no Parks and Rec staff?
Yeah, that's something we're kind of in a transition period right now, and we'd love to elaborate more on it at the end, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
All right. Well, we have in Bingham, we've had the first ever family festival. We sponsored that for a number of years now. That was pretty cool. And just as an aside, I happen to be a musician, and I have a lot of experience in putting together fundraisers, events, concerts, that kind of thing. Done that for years. Did it in Lathrop Village when I was there. Ran their summer concert series for a couple of years. And I've done it for a number of other, as the secretary of the Detroit Blues Society, which is an avocation for me. I've done a lot of that kind of event organizing. And that's, frankly, it's something that brings people together.
See, myself, and again, I only speak for myself, not the board. Mm-hmm. I'm more looking for a managerial style that can not only keep department heads on point, but it could also think outside the box and be creative in things to get the community involved together to do. Mm-hmm. You know, that's kind of the line I like to go down. So what do you feel this is the last question too, and I don't want to get beat up by the rest of the board for taking all your time. What do you feel your strongest skill set is?
Probably communication. I've worked in communications for a long time, and I'm adept at writing, adept at speaking, adept at giving presentations, all that kind of stuff. So I would say communication, listening and talking. I mean, I've conducted thousands of interviews in my course of life as a journalist, literally. Written thousands of articles that have been read by hundreds of thousands of people. That's probably my strongest suit.
All right. Well, thank you very much for answering all the questions.
Sure.
Supervisor Bowman?
Okay, thanks for coming here tonight. Do you have any experience in like overseeing large projects like infrastructure projects, community development, bringing businesses to town, developing, in general to create jobs for the community?
Yeah, let me take the infrastructure portion first. We're going through that right now in Bingham. We are preparing for a road rehabilitation project that involves about half the public roads in the village. There's a kind of a hybrid funding system. Part of it is special assessment, and part of it is just general fund dollars. We borrowed from the State Infrastructure Bank to sort of cover part of this cost. So we are going through that process right now. Bids will go out in April. That's a pretty big undertaking. As for the economic development, I was the economic development director for Lathrop Village. And so I do have some experience with attraction and retention as far as bringing businesses and that into the community. I could tell you a really, really long story about the development process that we went through to create a PUD in Bingham Farms that was ultimately killed by the pandemic. But this would have brought in an assisted living facility in a new office building in our business sector in Bingham, which consists of 29 office buildings already. It was an arduous process because while the developer had every right to do this according to the zoning ordinance and the master plan, the community was opposed to it. But we worked through the process, consumed 2 years. Unfortunately, it started in 2018, and by the time the pandemic rolled around, it kind of fell. I mean, a assisted living facility with the elements of people being stuck in assisted living facilities during the pandemic, funding dried up. The whole thing fell apart. It's consumed a lot of my life. professional life. Aside from that, we're always dealing with this in Bingham Farms. We're always looking to bring in new businesses or clients, I guess you could call them as well. We just have 2 restaurants opening up now right on Telegraph Road. We're pretty excited about. We had 2 close, again, partly pandemic related, but 2 new ones have opened up, and we do everything we can to help them.
Okay, I'm good.
Is that it, Supervisor Bowman? All right. So, how do you manage being politically neutral, in an environment where you have a board that's elected, on political lines?
So you're all have an R or a D after your name. That's not the case in a village or a city government. Those people are nonpartisan. How do I handle it? You just have to walk a straight line. I don't talk politics in the office. We don't talk politics at the table when we have meetings. I mean, it's just pretty much. It's kind of it's interesting that you say that or you ask that question because I don't have to handle it because it's just even keeled and neutral. To be quite honest with you, I have a Facebook account. I don't post anything political on there. I post stuff about dogs I've helped rescue and stuff about music and occasional joke. I stay away from that because I work in this in the position that I do. We don't even put lawn signs out at our house. My wife also works in local government, so we're pretty neutral, and that goes way back because when I was working in the newspapers, we weren't supposed to do that either. So I'm kind of kin to that. It's something that you have to. I'm assuming that you're all smart enough to know that this is not something that you should be bringing forth in involving the manager. So, if that was a problem, obviously we'd have to have a discussion about it.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because
Okay.
you could be put in that position, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
How do you stay on top of the industry trends and what's happening in local government, specifically to like general law townships and things that are going on at the state level?
Well, I am the alternate to SEMCOG. The president of the village is the actual delegate, but she delegates to me. so I am the one that attends the SEMCOG meetings. There's a lot of information there, and there's always ideas floating around, seminars to attend, that kind of thing. I'm also a member of the Michigan Municipal Executives, and I try to attend a couple of conferences a year. In addition to that, I'm a member of the Michigan Association of Planning. I'm not a planner. I don't have that certification, but I have a general interest in it, and I'm a member of that as well. I always try to attend a few of these, a few sessions to keep myself apprised of the trends that you're referring to.
Okay, thank you. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious if you could go a little deeper on any type of economic development that you have, spearheaded or helped bring into Bingham Farms.
Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, the PUD was a failure ultimately, but it wasn't really the village's doing. The other thing, we have a lot of infill development in our community, and working with. So, is that I keep hitting this microphone? Are you referring to infill development? Or are you referring to business economic development?
Business
Okay,
economic.
all right. So we do not have a DDA. Our village office is too small to have that, and we don't really have a downtown. It's a very large business district of office buildings, but it's not downtown per se like Belleville. That being said, we have a business license program that I initiated a number of years ago. Before I got there, we didn't even know who or what offices or what kinds of business were being conducted in these buildings. The strip malls, they all have signs, and you see, Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever it might be. In the office buildings, we had no idea. So the first thing is we instituted the business license program, recorded all kinds of information, shared it with the police department, shared it with the fire department. Now we know how many people are working in this community, and now we know what kind of businesses are here, and how do we track new folks. Well, the main thing, frankly, is was the lunch element, and there was just not enough places for people to eat at one time. So we underwent a major change with the zoning ordinance to allow for restaurants and that kind of thing to even exist, and that was huge. So that's one of the things that you look at your zoning ordinance and you see how can this be tweaked to be more inviting. We've done that a number of times. The business district did not allow educational uses, and I'm not sure why, but it didn't. When I got my master's degree, it was not me going to Central Michigan and living there for 2 years. It was taking these night classes and these weekend classes and all these satellite campuses, which were in office buildings all over Metro Detroit. So a couple in Lansing as well. So we amended the zoning ordinance to allow for educational uses. And now we have a French language school, we have an Italian language school in those buildings, and we have the Hondros College of Nursing, which is a private nursing college, mainly in Ohio and Indiana. This is their first Michigan branch. And that was huge. According to the folks that run that building, it's Bingham Center, we saved the building. So those are the kind of things. Number one, making sure your ordinance has uses that are allowable. Number two, you start making some calls. I have a Rolodex with a lot of names and numbers in it of people that run commercial real estate companies, and we're on the phone fairly regularly.
All right. I got a couple more. if you guys don't mind. Can you describe the general process of pulling together for us to be a township budget, but how you pull together a budget for the community you're in?
Well, you basically use last year's budget and you kind of build off of that, because it doesn't change that much. I mean, it really doesn't. You have basically your labor, and most of your budget is consumed by labor for your police and your fire, right? So I have yours here from 20. I couldn't find the current fiscal year's budget on your website, but I did pull up 2024 from the state treasury office, and I have it here. And sure enough, public safety consumes 56% of your budget. General government consumes 21%, and that's of your general fund. In your enterprise fund, public works, and then I think this is other governmental funds. I believe this is grant, but 30% of that is also public safety. So, I mean, that's a huge section, right? So I say that because you use the previous budget to build your new budget, and it's a lot of forecasting. Of course, a budget is a document that is basically a large estimate, right? You approve it, you expect these things to happen, but expect this to flow. But sometimes you have accidents, sometimes you go over, people retire, you need to replace people, they go on workers' comp, you have to replace a truck because it got in an accident. So that could cost, that'll throw you off a little bit. But it's an estimate, and the treasurer and I work on that. We have also a oversight committee that's made up of elected officials. We work with them as well. But I basically use the model of the previous year's budget and adjust accordingly.
Okay. Last question. For anybody that was dozing off on
We're gonna be left with what's your favorite color. By the time we get to this one.
Those are the hardest questions.
Describe your experience and having to be involved in like HR issues, things that come up between staff and department head that you may have to get into or that you have in the past.
Well, that's actually that function is handled by our treasurer. But I'm on my fourth treasurer in 6 years. So in the interim, that falls upon me. And I got to tell you, it's been pretty smooth. I haven't had a lot of issues. We have an insurance broker that we utilize to sort of come up with, search for new plans, and always on the hunt for the best deal. But as you probably are aware, these costs are going up all the time. Every year you can count on an increase in your benefits. And that's something that you have to figure into your budget. So, I can't tell you that I've had a lot of issues with our help with our HR. I do the hiring and I do the firing if necessary, and I do the discipline if that is necessary as well. But by and large, as far as the paperwork stuff goes, it's not that difficult to me because the treasurer handles most of it.
I think and I apologize if I didn't, make it more specific. I was more going towards issues where an employee's coming to you and they have a problem with another employee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry I
That
didn't
kind
make
of
that
thing.
more specific.
All
I'm
right.
just, handling those type of issues, here we have a union, we have 4 unions that we have, but I mean, the main one here in the office is an ASME union, and so there's processes, obviously, by the contract we have to follow. I was looking for what your experience is dealing with those type of issues when somebody comes in and says, hey, this guy, I don't like him.
But people have to work together. We all know that, right? That it just things. I mean, you have to have certain basic human skills to function in an office. As far as the police department has a union, and I'm certainly part of the negotiation team when it comes to that. But I haven't had an issue like what you're referring to. I have to plead ignorance because I haven't had something like that before.
I can see that. I mean, it is a smaller community,
Right. Right. I'm very
Those things
fortunate.
do come up, so, we gotta be prepared to be able to handle them,
I'm very fortunate in that the folks that work in the office they all seem to get along pretty well together. They're not union protected either. They're just at-will employees.
Okay, well, thank you. Treasurer Patterson?
Thank you, sir. So I've got a kind of a series of questions here, different topics. One of them would be, basically when it comes to board interaction, you've had several questions about the township manager's relationship with the board of trustees and stuff. Being obviously, 7 different people, 7 different opinions, how would you handle it if, say, I'm just a hypothetical, if, say that there were a couple trustees that were giving you a direction on maybe a certain instance or situation, and you had a couple other trustees that were giving you maybe an opposite or something like that, how would you go along trying to?
Is this at a
figure out
meeting
what to do?
in your hypothetical, or is this?
It's purely hypothetical, never really happened, but I could see a potential for how, as the township manager, because I try to put myself in Tony's spot, well, I've heard just the opposite, how, I'm curious in that role, how do you bring, okay, well, I've had different direction, what is your approach to that if you're getting different direction from different board members?
Well, you have to come to a consensus. Everybody, any elected official who's sitting as a member of a body should be aware that compromise and consensus is the name of the game. That's the first thing. I frankly, I have a pretty good relationship with the village president. And I would hope that I would have a good relationship with the township supervisor so that we could sort those issues out together. I hope that there isn't anyone that's so headstrong that they're gonna just charge ahead without the supervisor and the manager at least being aware of what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, no, that answered the question. So, again, I'm trying to think of how I can rephrase it. If somebody can help me, if they know what I'm trying to ask is, again, if a question came up, we don't have time for maybe a board meeting's 2 weeks away or something like that, and a subject came up and well, this is kind of like a board direction, and do you pick up the phone? Do you call 7? If you got 2 that are saying this and 2 that are saying this, well, I'm getting conflicting directions.
It sounds like a policy issue. And
Well,
that
that's
should
where
be,
I'm going with it, yeah.
that should be discussed at this table in a public meeting in the open, in the sunshine. That's where I would go with that. And I would
Okay,
tell.
that's what I was looking for, yeah.
Okay, so I would tell folks, if you need to have something on the agenda, please tell me and tell the supervisor. We'll put it on the next meeting agenda and you can talk about it. And if there's supporting documentation, if we have advance notice, we can always put that in the meeting packet so that everybody has an opportunity to read that stuff as well as the public.
Got it. That's what I was looking
I'm
for.
sorry, I kind of, all right, I understand now what you're
Yeah.
asking. Okay.
No, I appreciate that. So, this is again a
Let me
difficult.
just interrupt real quick.
Yes, sir.
As a journalist, that was really important in those days, and it's still really important today.
Yeah,
Transparency.
totally agree. So describe a situation where you had to make a difficult decision that was unpopular but necessary for the town's best interest.
I'll tell you the PUD, that thing that I mentioned earlier. I figured this would come up. So in 2018, almost the first week I started, these documents were submitted, the plans for this PUD, and well, it looks good to me. Little did I know that most of a large segment of the village was opposed to this project. And they rested their hat, the opposition rested their hat on the fact that it was going to sap our fire department, which was basically volunteer. Right? There's 3 full-time firefighters and then the rest are volunteers. And if you put in a 88 or 90 bed assisted living facility, it's going to sap and just take every resource. Every day there's going to be a run, and the fire department said we can't handle this. We wouldn't be able to handle it. So, after much hand-wringing, we actually got the developer to agree to fund in perpetuity a firefighter. This would have been not just serving the village, serving the PUD, but that person would be serving the entire village. That would include raises and whatnot. The issue with this is that you couldn't just tell the developer, we can't do it, sorry, it's just, the zoning law allowed for this development, and the master plan, actually, corner of 14 and Telegraph, included a special study area calling for an assisted living facility or something of that nature in this very location. So the developer has been acting on, or working on this, with this knowledge, putting this plan together for 5 years. He said, if you guys are going to deny this, I'm just going to sue the village. And exhibit number 1 is going to be your master plan. And you're going to lose. And our legal team said that's true. So we had to work something out. This was, again, this consumed a couple of years of my career in Bingham Farms. We got it, we worked it out, got the approvals, finally got the agreement. However, again, the whole deal was killed because of the COVID situation. Nevertheless, that was a difficult process.
I bet. Sounds like it. I appreciate it. Thanks
Sure.
for elaborating on that. Last one's more about Sumpter Township in itself. It looks like you've done a little bit of homework on looking up the past budget, stuff like that. But what can you tell us about what you know about Sumpter Township in regards to its maybe strengths, challenges, opportunities that you may have been able to find out just in your research?
Well, honestly, I feel that's a little premature for me to answer, but you kind of have to work in a place to kind of know a place. That's kind of the way I see it. I wouldn't walk into this facility and start immediately trying to change the dynamic of the village by inviting certain elements of you got to learn a little bit more about that. However, I will say this, until actually Mr. Rush and I just had a discussion before this meeting, which changed my thinking. I see a lot of possibility. I did for residential development, but then he just informed me that it might be an issue with sewers. So maybe that's not such a possibility after all. And it's one thing to look around on the surface and say, oh, look at all this property, and there's got to be some farmland here that's for sale, and some residents or some developer's going to come in and build some homes. That would be awesome. Let me call, and I have some numbers and I could call. But that's a different issue now. If there's a problem with bringing in sewers and everyone has to go on septic, it's a whole nother matter. So that's why I hesitate to say what a strength would be, because what I thought might be a strength was maybe a concern. regarding the sewer issue. I mean,
Yep.
I hope that makes sense to you.
It does, yeah, I appreciate the honesty.
I will say this, the location's awesome. I mean, you're not far from where I live, and you're not far from Ann Arbor. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm not sure why there isn't more population here. It seems to make sense.
Yep,
If
I
people like
appreciate it.
country living, but work in the big city,
Yeah,
anyway,
cool, thank you, appreciate it.
thank you.
Back to you, Chair.
All right. Trustee Frazier?
You ask me my favorite color?
I just got one question.
Okay.
Did you look at our master plan
I have.
and you understand what what our future, what we see for our future actually holds?
I think it's overdue, isn't it, for an update, if I'm not mistaken? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I hesitate to say, I mean, the state requires an update every 5 years. And I think if that's supposed to happen and it's overdue, I hate to go too far into what's already there. But what are you getting at?
You answered my question already. I just want to make sure you looked at it.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna come back around and ask any of our board members if you have any follow-up questions before we kind of move into the next phase.
Chair? I did, well, I think that you might have alluded to, Mr. Martin, before, that you maybe had some questions for us.
I do, but I'm happy to answer a few more
Yeah, but
before I
I'm
get
trying
to.
to skip ahead, but, so,
Well, I'll say you just took, now.
I'm sorry.
I can only ask about a color now. No,
Sorry.
I wanted to make sure that the board was done asking questions before
Yes.
I went on to the next phase, which would be to ask Mr. Martin, you know, what questions he has for us as far as follow-up, or maybe something that we were ambiguous about that we'd like to take another shot at.
I got a question.
Oh, hold on, before we get there, Mr. Martin. Mr. Supervisor Bowman?
Okay, you know, you mentioned, about, you know, rooftops, developing residential homes that would bring in revenue. Are you familiar with, you know, as far as getting grants or looking for ways to update our sewer system or water mains and to make something like that happen? Or do you have the ability to, you know, search out, I mean, every piece of property has a name on it. Would you be searching for open areas that would work for a development? Could you work with the township to try to promote something like that?
It's possible, certainly. First thing is, I'm sorry, I should know this from my research, but I don't. Is the township a member of SEMCOG?
Pardon me?
Is the township a member of the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, SEMCOG?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are, okay. All right, I mean, there's a lot of valuable information and there's a lot of grants, frankly, that are related to placemaking and that are related to infrastructure development. They don't necessarily pay for the infrastructure, but they pay for the planning of the infrastructure, or cover quite a bit of it. So I would, that's one place I would look. If development is tricky because of this issue, I mean, it is solvable. It takes money. It's usually expensive, right? So some of that would involve consulting with the village engineer as well. But if we could write a grant to start looking for planning for this kind of thing, that'd be awesome. We could do that. Secondly, you're not going to force people to sell their properties and start building on them. It has to be. The opportunity has to present itself, right? And I mean, after doing some surveying, and I don't mean professional surveying, but doing some driving around, talking to people, we could probably target some places and come up with some ideas. But you have to have a willing seller first, and then you got to find the buyer, and then you got to come up with the dollars.
Okay. Do you think it would be a better idea, other than you, I guess, spending your time, your valuable time, trying to get grants and dealing with everything else that's going on in the township, or hire an actual grant writer
I'm not sure a full-time grant writer would be necessary.
Not really full-time, just something, you know, like for that specific reason, to create rooftops. You know, create,
I would maybe, a lot of times your consultants will do that for you anyway. Your planning consultant, your engineering consultant, they'll help you in that, looking in that direction. I mean, you have a good relationship, I'm assuming, with your consulting firms? Is it Kyle Wortman?
Workman, yep.
Carlisle working.
Okay. Usually, you know, they can push you in that right, or point you in that right direction. And if you would like them to write the grant for you, they will. So there would be no need to hire someone to do that when you have a relationship with a firm that provides that service in the first place. That's worth looking at.
I guess everybody knows that we have a large piece of property, right, on Rossville Road, that would most likely interest,
I got your zoning map here. Can you
Yeah.
tell me where it is?
yeah, 69 acres on Rossville Road,
It's
North.
on the west side of the.
west side of
border.
the township.
Yeah,
Okay.
Towards the south.
I mean, you know, 69 acres.
mind just pointing it out to me. Okay.
Man, right where that rascal was, huh?
I put an offer on it last week. didn't I?
So it's designated government.
You beat me to it.
There's nothing there now.
Oh,
Yeah, there's,
oh,
Is it? They're just
No,
land,
nothing.
right?
Yeah, it's just land.
it's just parkland?
yeah, and
Okay.
I mean, you know, 69 acres would make a pretty decent subdivision,
Yeah, it certainly would.
yeah.
Yeah, yes. Definitely, that would be something I would talk with a planning consultant about, number one. Secondly, I've got numbers. I'm not saying I'm some magic guy, and all I gotta do is call somebody up and they're gonna come out and build stuff.
Yeah, I don't
But
have
I know
to-
people that do this. And they've done a lot of infill projects in Bingham and in Lathrop Village when I was there. I know folks that handle that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just a couple houses, sometimes it's a little larger than a couple houses. You know, that's something that would be, that, if the board is on board, if the board is wanting this to happen, I mean, we could certainly look into it. Now, knowing that, you know, these things take years. You all know that, right? I mean, these things are not like, you know, so let's start building tomorrow. These things take a while.
Yeah.
But, you know, if we want to, if that would be something that the board is interested in doing, we would devote resources to it, for sure.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. All right, so, back to you, Mr. Martin. You have any follow-up questions that you would like?
Well, guess what? One of my questions is, are there any potential development projects on the horizon?
Can't think of
Well,
it.
there's,
Okay.
there's one.
Asked and answered.
Chair, we also, up in our industrial section, we've had
For sure.
economic development people from Wayne County bring people and live. There are a lot of opportunities on the north side of our
Yeah, there's-
township in that industrial section, just to bring you up to
Yeah,
speed.
we have over
on that.
200 acres, 200 acres for sale right now in our industrial
This
section.
northwest triangular section?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right.
Okay.
And that's frankly, that's another resource. And I haven't worked in Wayne County in a long time. So I'm a little unfamiliar with the politics of the county and what they offer. But if they're anything like Oakland County, I mean, they would have this, what you're talking about, these kinds of, a team or a department, and I would certainly be willing to explore bringing them in to do something like this. Now, I will say one more thing. I did read the Crosswinds Marsh description, and it sounded like that the township and the county had a pretty good partnership going back to develop that into a natural feature that people, a lot of people seem to, I guess, enjoy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, so there is some relationship with the county that has proven to be successful.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Pardon me?
I said it's a love-hate relationship.
Oh, it is?
Got that right.
Okay, do you have any other follow-ups, Mr. Mayor?
Just a couple real quickly. Are there any special assessment districts in the village? I mean, in the township?
Not that I'm aware of. If I think we had some in the past, Robert, I think they've all expired.
Sorry, I didn't hear
The special assessment districts.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and you're right, we had them in the past for certain projects, but once that took care of itself, then.
All right. Okay. What's the next steps? What is your process like for this whole thing?
Well, we are, you are our third candidate. We have two others that we've done interviews on.
Okay.
So we are at the stage now after we complete the interview with you. We're gonna be pulling together a score. We have a score from 1 to 5 on how we think you qualify for the position.
Okay.
We will then have discussions and we have to make to the next level and figure out, which one of the 3 candidates we like the best and gonna offer a job to.
Okay.
Hopefully you won't have to, be working too long in April,
Two more questions. I noticed that DPW director and finance director are being posted. Are those positions vacant, or is it sort of a transition where people are retiring?
They're still vacant.
Okay.
We
All right.
we have a gentleman for the DPW that we're seriously considering now.
Okay.
And we've interviewed for finance director. So we're in the process of trying to fill those gaps so that we have a full team.
All right. Okay. Why are there so many people here all of a sudden?
We have a 6 o'clock.
I'm just kidding.
They came to see you.
All right.
Came to see you.
Well, look, I appreciate you all spending the time with me. And again, it's a privilege just to be called for an interview. And thank you for accommodating my vacation. Obviously, that was unexpected conflict of schedules. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Nope, thank you, sir.
I will probably reach out to Debbie just as a follow-up. If I have any further questions, maybe I'll throw them at her. But
Please.
I guess again, thanks again for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Martin.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
Okay, so, in the spirit of time, I think, we should go ahead and we have a few minutes to complete our
Score sheet?
scoring sheets, and we can pass those to Debbie. And
Put our name up at the top too.
TR.
yes, if everybody would put their name on there, I'd appreciate it.
Got the lieutenant book. Yeah, family and everything are gonna be here, yeah. That's my chief looks like that stuff. Oh,
The paper sheet again, so Matt, we give her the interview score, then
She can tell it's the same.
pardon me?
It's the same number.
Okay, just put the same one in.
No,
Not gonna need it back tonight, I guess.
She'll take this one plus this one.
Thank you.
And average it out, okay.
So, as we look at our agenda here, and we have just a few minutes, I would recommend that we maybe go through announcements, if anybody has any announcements, and then we should have a discussion on whether we should adjourn or if we're gonna delay the meeting and having further discussions.
No announcements here. No announcements.
Nothing. You don't wanna announce your favorite color?
It's blue.
All right.
Purple tonight, so.
What are the thoughts on adjournment with, us being so close to the time?
So what will we do though, eventually come back to it?
We could either come back to it, add it to the agenda for further discussion at our next meeting, at 6 o'clock in a few minutes, or we would have to schedule another discussion.
Could we maybe make
Let's get it done.
maybe add it to the end of the regular board meeting agenda?
Yep.
I think we have to have further discussion, but I also don't wanna delay getting into
Yeah. Getting into the meeting.
the meeting, yes, sir.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, do we add it as agenda item
Yeah, I think we added it as an agenda item.
Sure, it's like E, F, G, G.
Yeah. I'll, call for a motion of adjournment.
I'll make that motion. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.